Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really getting into a profound legal tension in Pakistan. It's about how these, well, centuries-old traditions are clashing with modern human rights, specifically over child marriage.
It's a critical issue.
Absolutely. We'll unpack two Islamabad High Court rulings that seem to go in completely different directions. They've left this whole thing unsettlingly unresolved.
Yeah, the ambiguity is a real problem.
So we'll examine what this means, for child protection, for family law, and even for Pakistan's international standing. Child marriage, it's just remained this persistent challenge in Pakistan, hasn't it?
It really has, despite various reforms, new laws, international promises.
The core legality seems, well, still up in the air.
That's right. These conflicting court decisions mean the fundamental question is such a marriage valid or not? It hasn't been definitively settled.
So what's driving this? You mentioned the core conflict.
What's truly fascinating here, I think, is that at its heart, you've got this dilemma pitting traditional Muslim personal law against modern statutory frameworks.
Okay.
So specifically, Hanafi jurisprudence, which is a dominant school of Islamic law there, it generally accepts puberty and consent as enough for a valid marriage.
Puberty being presumed around 15, or sometimes even younger.
Exactly. And that stands in pretty stark contrast to modern laws like the old Child Marriage Restraint Act from 1929
The CMRA. Right.
and the newer Islamabad Child Marriage Restraint Act of 2025, the ICMRA. These laws aim to set a clear minimum age, usually 18, specifically to protect minors.
So that creates this fundamental tension courts are grappling with.
A huge tension. They've struggled mightily to reconcile these two approaches.
Okay, so if that's the background tension, how does this actually, play out in recent court cases? You mentioned two key rulings from Islamabad High Court.
Precisely. They really showcase this conflict perfectly. Two key judgments, same court. Let's start with the one seen as more progressive.
All right.
That's the ruling in Mumtaz Bibi v. Qasim from 2022, delivered by Justice Babar Sattar.
And what was the main takeaway from Justice Sattar and Mumtaz Bibi? What did he establish?
Well, in Mumtaz Bibi, the ruling was pretty unequivocal. It declared the marriage of a minor void ab initio, meaning legally non-existent right from the very beginning, as if it never happened.
Wow.
Justice Sattar really emphasized that criminal laws defining minority and marriage age, like those Child Marriage Restraint Acts, and crucially, Section 375 of the Pakistan Penal Code dealing with statutory rape must take precedence.
Over traditional family law principles.
Yes,
Yeah.
over those principles. And this approach, it aligns strongly with Pakistan's own constitution, the guarantees of dignity, equality, protection of the family.
Articles 9, 14, 25.
Exactly. And it also brings Pakistan's legal stance closer to its international obligations. We're talking about the Convention on the Rights of the Child, CRC, CEDAW.
Right, eliminating discrimination against women.
And even Sustainable Development Goal 5.3, which specifically targets ending child marriage.
It has a powerful stance. It's saying the marriage never legally existed. It has huge implications, right? For everyone involved, any rights, responsibilities.
Indeed. It's a very, very robust position for child protection. Makes things legally quite clear in that sense.
But then you said there's a contrasting ruling.
Yes. Then we have a ruling taking a more, let's say, conservative approach. This is Mohammed Riaz v. District Judge, also an Islamabad High Court judgment, but from 2025, delivered by Justice Muhammad Azam Khan.
So the same court, but a totally different outcome. What was the finding in that case?
In Mohammed Riaz, the court found that actually a marriage with a girl who has attained puberty and given her consent is valid under Islamic law.
Valid, even if facilitating it is punishable under the ICMRA.
Yes, exactly. Valid even though the act might be punishable under statutory law like the ICMRA 2025. The reasoning here really prioritized preserving the legitimacy of any children born from such unions.
Oh, okay.
And also maintaining consistency with Sharia principles, citing some earlier Supreme Court precedents. The judgment also decided that consummation within such a marriage, assuming puberty and consent, does not constitute rape under Section 375 of the Penal Code. It referenced a 2013 Lahore High Court case on that point.
So the court specifically noted the laws punish the act, but don't explicitly say the marriage itself is void.
Precisely. That was a key part of the reasoning. The CMRA and ICMRA criminalize the surrounding actions, but don't contain explicit language voiding the marriage contract itself.
It's really quite striking. Two rulings, same high court, fundamentally different views, and both are considered good law. How does the legal system even function with that?
You've put your finger right on the core of the dilemma.
It sounds like trying to use two different rule books at the same time.
It does feel that way. The underlying legal landscape in Pakistan is just, well, it's a complex tapestry.
Yeah.
You have Islamic law generally saying marriage is valid with puberty and consent.
Right.
Then you have statutory laws like the ICMRA setting 18 as the minimum age, making underage marriage a crime, but crucially, often not explicitly voiding the marriage itself.
And the Constitution sits over all this.
Yes, and it pulls in both directions too. On one hand, it provides a strong basis for progressive rulings, dignity, life, equality articles.
Okay.
But it also recognizes Sharia supremacy. Article 227 and the Enforcement of Sharia Act actually mandate interpretations consistent with Islamic principles.
So a built-in tension there, too.
Absolutely. And then layer on top Pakistan's international commitments, CRC, CEDAW, SDG 5.3, all pushing for the abolition of child marriage and recognizing children's rights.
Okay, so that's the complex legal framework. But what about the real world? How do these opposing legal pathways actually affect people's lives? What are the human consequences of this ambiguity?
Well, it creates really significant practical and doctrinal contradictions.
For instance?
For instance, the same child marriage could be seen as non-existent legally if you follow Mumtaz Bibi.
Void ab initio.
Right. Or it could be seen as valid, though perhaps punishable, if you follow Mohammed Riaz.
And the same act of consummation.
It could be lawful marital relations in one view or statutory rape in the other.
Wow. That's a stark difference.
It has direct impacts on the legitimacy of children born from these unions. The progressive view risks making them illegitimate in the eyes of the law.
Whereas the conservative view explicitly tries to avoid that.
Exactly. It aims to preserve their legitimacy. And fundamentally, having these diametrically opposed rulings coexisting within the same high court just creates immense legal uncertainty. Outcomes become highly unpredictable.
Which means lawyers and judges can essentially pick the precedent that suits their case.
That's the practical reality. It leads to inconsistent justice.
And we should probably touch on the broader context too, right? Beyond the legal arguments, what are the social and economic factors pushing these situations into the courts?
That's a really crucial point. You can't discuss this in a vacuum. Powerful social drivers like poverty are huge. UNICEF reports something like 19 million child brides in Pakistan.
19 million.
It's a staggering number. And we're even seeing new pressures like monsoon brides, climate change, worsening poverty, and forcing families into these decisions.
So climate change is now a factor in child marriage.
It seems to be exacerbating the underlying issues, yes. All these factors add layers of complexity and make the policy implications of these court rulings even more critical.
So what does this tangled situation mean for you, the listener? Maybe you're a lawyer navigating this, or just someone trying to understand what's going on. How do people actually work with this ambiguity, with both Mumtaz Bibi and Mohammed Riaz being valid precedents?
It really does create a kind of strategic battlefield for legal practitioners.
How so?
Well, if you're a defense lawyer, the Mohammed Riaz judgment is potentially very useful. You can argue the marriage, if solemnized with puberty and consent, is valid under Islamic law.
Which could limit criminal liability for your client.
Potentially, yes. But conversely, if you're on the prosecution side or advocating for child protection...
You'd use Mumtaz Bibi.
Exactly. You'd leverage Mumtaz Bibi to argue the marriage is void from the start, and any consummation is statutory rape, pushing for strong protective measures.
And in family court, disputes about inheritance, maybe?
There, a more conservative approach might be preferred by some parties to preserve the legitimacy of children and any associated marital rights, whereas for women's rights, advocacy groups...
They need the progressive ruling.
The progressive approach is absolutely essential for pushing legislative reforms to better protect minors.
Okay, so given all these complexities, the human stakes, the legal mess, what's the way forward? What recommendations are out there to bring some clarity, consistency, and ultimately better protection for children? It sounds like something structural needs to change urgently.
Absolutely. And the research, even the Mohammed Riaz judgment itself, points towards key reforms. First and foremost, legislative clarity. Meaning Parliament needs to amend laws like the CMRA, the ICMRA, and the Muslim Family Laws Ordinance, the MFLO.
To do what specifically?
To state clearly whether child marriages are voidable or valid, and crucially, harmonize these laws with others like the Penal Code and the Hudud ordinances. Get everything on the same page. Second, and this is vital, Supreme Court intervention.
A definitive ruling from the top court.
Yes, a full bench ruling. That would unify the legal doctrine across the whole country. Under Article 189 of the Constitution, that ruling would be binding on all other courts. That's essential for consistency. Third, there's a big need for institutional reforms, real practical changes.
Like what?
Like mandating NADRA, the National Database and Registration Authority, birth verification for all marriages.
To stop underage registrations before they happen.
Precisely. Accurate records are key. Any inconsistencies should need a court order to resolve. Also, mandatory training for NICA registrars, the marriage officiants.
So they know the law and the consequences.
Exactly. They need to understand the ICMRA's provisions, the penalties, and if they facilitate a child marriage, immediate license revocation, criminal proceedings, no exceptions.
That sounds strict.
It needs to be. And another critical institutional piece requiring courts, guardian courts, family courts, even those handling habeas corpus under Section 491 CRPC to bring in child protection officers.
CPOs, under the Islamabad Child Protection Act.
Yes, the ICPA. These CPOs need to conduct proper welfare assessments in all child marriage cases, assessing the child's age, maturity, if consent was truly voluntary, potential harm.
And develop a plan.
Develop childcare plans as needed. It ensures a child-focused, evidence-based approach, not just legal arguments. Fourth recommendation, awareness campaigns.
Getting the word out.
Yes, sustained, widespread campaigns involving scholars, media, community leaders, educating everyone about the harms, legal implications, and the state's duty under the Constitution, Articles 35 and 37, to protect families and children. And finally, number 5, international alignment, making sure Pakistan fully complies with its commitments under treaties like the CRC and CEDAW.
Wow, that's a comprehensive set of recommendations. This deep dive has certainly, I think, laid bare the really profound legal and societal questions Pakistan is facing on child marriage.
Yeah.
We've definitely seen the conflicting interpretations and, well, the urgent, absolute need for clarity.
Indeed. And until Pakistan gets that binding Supreme Court precedent or clear action from its legislature, it's going to remain stuck at this crossroads.
A crossroads with huge implications.
Absolutely. The final resolution, whichever way it goes, will really define its legal identity. Will it lean towards preserving traditional jurisprudence, or will it firmly affirm the rights and dignity of its children?
A crucial question, and maybe something for you, the listener, to think about. What kind of society does Pakistan ultimately want to be for its children, and how will its laws reflect that choice?